I'm Jaron Jordan. Right now on Up Front, race to the finish line, the final sprint underway. The surrogates and big names coming to town. Our team on the campaign trail. New interviews in the high-profile race for Senate just moments away. Then an exclusive rare look inside. Poll workers trained in Wisconsin. The new warnings and the new security measures now being put in place. And Wisconsin's black vote, will African Americans turn out? The push by Democrats and Republicans and the 11th hour visit from former President Barack Obama.
Taking on the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front.
Thanks for being with us. I'm Jaron Jordan. Just 9 days to go. The candidates barnstorming the state. Critical and high-profile races for governor and U.S. Senate. The final Marquette Law School poll out this Wednesday as in-person early voting is underway right now. I joined Matt Smith, Joyce Garbasiak, and our team on the campaign trail with new interviews in the race for Senate.
And your next United States Senator, Mandela Barnes. That's why I'm here.
This weekend, the final sprint in battleground Wisconsin, control of the U.S. Senate at stake. Former President Barack Obama in Milwaukee Saturday, an 11th hour attempt to galvanize Democratic voters. Both Democrat Mandela Barnes and Republican Senator Ron Johnson now crisscrossing the state on bus tours. Johnson Friday joined by Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel and National Republican Senatorial Committee Chairman Senator Rick Scott.
Resources are still here going into the final week.
Yeah, we're continuing to invest here. We have right now, I believe we're going to get 52 plus seats in the Senate,
and that's relying on Johnson winning.
Yeah.
Now, behind the scenes, parts of our new interviews, closing arguments in this critical race, inflation, the top issue for Wisconsin voters in these final days.
The president recently said if the GOP regains control of Congress, prices will go even higher, inflation will get even worse. Can you promise if Republicans gain control of Congress, prices won't go up?
He's saying that because he's baked inflation into the cake. The massive partisan deficit spending of the Biden administration sparked inflation. I was concerned about inflation even under the previous administration, which is why I stopped voting for the COVID relief bills, because every time we brought another one up, there was like $1 trillion left from the previous COVID relief bill. Now that is going to take time to wring that out of the system. Inflation is not going to go away. As transitory or as much as President Biden tried to say that inflation was transitory, we're finding no, it's pretty endemic. I've been warning about this. I've been concerned about it. But now you got President Biden, I would say cynically, because he's probably looking at the tea leaves, probably thinking it's a pretty good chance that Republicans might at least grab one branch of government. Now he wants to blame us. No, this is the fault of President Biden and Democrat policies and Democrat governance.
Voters say inflation is the #1 issue, and they seem to trust Republicans on that issue more than Democrats.
Well, the reality, as I mentioned, this is about rebuilding the middle class and giving people opportunity.
Barnes, in these final days, honing in on a populist message on the economy.
In the short term, we need to make sure we offer working class families some relief. That means a middle class tax cut, expanding the earned income tax credit, making the child tax credit permanent so people can keep more of what they earn. Now, unfortunately, we have people like Ron Johnson who just pointed fingers but won't lift a single finger to help anybody. And when I talk about providing tax incentives or tax benefits, tax breaks for working class families, that should be paid for by making sure the wealthy pay their fair share. On top of it, we got to make sure that CEOs and these large corporations are being held accountable for using inflation as a smokescreen to jack up prices on folks. Companies like oil and gas companies, these grocery store chains, they are making record profits at the same time they're charging us record prices. It's not fair, and the deck is stacked against folks.
How much blame does your party have for where we are today?
Well, I'll tell you, people like Ron Johnson had no problem blowing a $2 trillion hole into the deficit to deliver tax breaks for the wealthy.
Let me ask you about Social Security. Your opponent has brought that up recently. So has President Biden. He's made this a campaign theme. He said, the president said Social Security is on the chopping block, and he specifically pointed to you.
And I have never said that. Understand that I have never said that. I want to save Social Security. So, I want to save Medicare, but I'll let you finish your question.
It was the president who said that, and you've talked about making it discretionary, right? So every year reauthorization. Explain how you think that would make the issue better.
First of all, this is This is a lie they've told about me and many Republicans election after election. They've done this three elections in a row. What I'm trying to say is that we need to, one of the reasons we're $31 trillion in debt is 70% of the budget is off budget. It's mandatory. It gets spent regardless. And all I'm saying is we need to look at the budget in its entirety. The greatest threat to Social Security and Medicare or any government program is the $31 trillion in debt. It's growing.
Do you want this discretionary though? Yeah, just
no,
so people understand.
Listen, that comment was brought up because Democrats, I think cynically, took about $400 billion of VA spending, which we've never cut VA benefits. But VA benefits were on the discretionary end of the ledger, okay? And they turned that into mandatory. We didn't think that should happen because the reason Democrats did that was to open up a hole of $400 billion of additional discretionary spending to further mortgage our kids' future. So all I'm talking about is a responsible budgeting process where we look at the entire federal budget and properly prioritize spending.
Barnes has focused a major part of his campaign on abortion. Democrats nationally calculating, some argue risking, the overturning of Roe v. Wade will mobilize enough Democratic and women voters. Johnson has proposed putting the issue to voters, creating a proposed referendum question, asking at what point does society have the responsibility to protect the life of an unborn child, giving 10 different options from the moment of conception to never.
So exactly where I stand, this is literally irrelevant. I'm willing to.
No, but I think, sir,
I'm willing to set my personal opinion aside.
But you're a leader. People look up to you, and they want to know where you stand on a referendum question that you created.
I am leading by setting up a process for us to develop a consensus that we can accept as a society, and hopefully once and for all put this divisive issue behind us.
Let's say that the referendum will not advance just because of the history of having that happen in the state.
Can I say, what I will promise Wisconsin voters is, if reelected, I will use every ounce of my influence to convince the governor and the legislature to move forward on a single issue referendum. I was with the state senator yesterday making that point. If I survive this thing, I'm still involved in public policy. I'll be putting pressure on you guys to bring up that referendum.
Well, let's say you are successful in your return to the Senate. If Lindsey Graham's 15-week abortion ban comes before you, how will you vote on that?
Well, first of all, I'll do everything I can to not bring that to a vote.
On the issue of abortion, is this an issue that you think should go before voters?
Well, I can tell you that 70% of people in the state of Wisconsin think Roe versus Wade should be the law of the land. And the Supreme Court made a very out-of-touch decision, almost as out-of-touch as Senator Ron Johnson has been for the last 12 years.
Should voters be the one to decide, or is this a federal government issue?
I think the people of Wisconsin are already pretty clear on where they are. 70% of the people in the state agree. And I support making Roe versus Wade the law of the land, as a majority of people in the state do.
Barnes also on upfront when asked whether he supports any legal restrictions.
Do you support a woman being allowed to have an abortion up until birth?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a decision that should be made between a woman and her doctor. I don't have the medical credentials to make that decision.
I mean, is that a yes or no, though?
Well, I think most members of Congress don't have the medical credentials to make that decision.
A lot of people are going to say you, by not saying yes or no, means that you are open to abortion up until birth.
Well, my answer to that is just, I'm not a medical professional, and neither are most people who make this decision.
During the campaign, Johnson agreed to a third debate with WISN-TV and the University of Wisconsin, and subsequently an extensive interview. Barnes's campaign did not.
People saw 2 debates on live on television where Ron Johnson tried to run away from his record. He was so absurd as to say the FBI tried to set him up. He tried to play victim.
And so I've always felt it was my responsibility to make sure that Wisconsinites knew who I was, where I stood on issues, what my beliefs were. And so, that's why I agreed to the debates. It's my responsibility to make sure that people know where I stand.
Johnson, during his second term, served as chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Republicans now privately planning a roadmap if they regain control of the Senate.
Will you seek chairmanship of any committees of Senate if Republicans regain control of the Senate? You just mentioned potential investigations.
My assumption would be, because I've timed out of chairman of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, so I would be in line to be the chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations under that committee. And that would be, I think, a good place for me to be to do the oversight that I'd want to conduct.
What would be your top investigation you would first launch?
Well, I've said that I would be like a mosquito in a nudist colony. It'd be a target-rich environment. But I think we need to take a look at what happened with our miserably failed response to COVID. I know Senator Rand Paul may be chair of the full committee. He certainly wants to find out where this all originated. Listen, we've seen horrible corruption within the FBI. I would say partisanship within the Department of Justice. I think we need to find out more about that.
Well, should former President Trump run again in 2024, can he count on you for support?
So I'm worried about this election, this cycle.
Still ahead in our countdown to the midterms, only on Upfront, an exclusive rare look inside poll training in Wisconsin and the new warning ahead of Election Day.